You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And here is Samson's stake. Act professionally, stop the abuse. Part 4. Suicidal soldier, CDS to the rescue. That was my first title upon receiving the good news. But I had to remind myself that this is a series whose title must not depart from the previous ones in the last 3 weeks. I've had an encounter, cordial and responsive, with the Ghana Army. And I am mandated to tell you that if any officer or the military police ever try to arrest or detain you for military discipline, don't only resist, but file a complaint. Yes, any misguided elements in the uniform that ought to be respected, wielding the gun that you pay for, who attempts to treat you, a civilian, as though you were under military discipline, must be exposed for sanctions. In fact, many should actually be suing to check the abuse of the uniform and the gun. You have heard me educate and denounce the unlawful conduct where some wealthy and influential persons turn unscrupulous soldiers into debt collectors and land guards. The Chief of Defense Staff and his lieutenants denounce the abuse. They are united with you, the civilian populace, against the conduct and assure that they will deal with such complaints with the speed of light. You have heard me condemn such unlawful and unconstitutional conduct in the last few weeks. So no officer has the blessing of the army leadership to engage in such. Therefore, stand up against the errant soldiers. Lance Corporal Kofi Andrews gets rescued from the guard room. I have told the story about how he has been in there at Michelle Camp unlawfully since November 2022, when their own law commands that an officer under discipline must be released if not tried after 90 days. There is now clear admission that those who supervised his detention erred and violated his rights in a most unfair manner. Though the letter from his lawyers was endorsed as received on 5th December 2022, it did not, for some reason, get to the CDS for action until I delivered a copy this week. Upon expiration of the 90 days in the guard room, adjutants have on several occasions denied his request to speak to commanders who forgot about him there. If you cannot try someone within the time stipulated by law, release them, but secure their attendance when needed. That's what a democracy does. Actively involve your legal departments to avoid some of the embarrassment you put the Attorney General through when matters get to court. Don't use your position to abuse. The purpose of position and power is the welfare and advancement of the people and entities for whom you have the position or power. I'll say no more. I'm satisfied by the firm assurance at the highest level that the wrong will be remedied. The fact that there will be increased frequency in high-level monitoring of guard rooms to ensure that not even a single person's liberty is abused in such manner again is reassuring. That is what proactive leaders do. Law and order may have broken down in Ashaiman, But there can be no alternative to due process of the law in a democracy to dealing with any breakers. I join the CDD once again, Occupy Ghana, and all lovers of the rule of law to repeat the demand for sanctions and compensation for what is admitted to be one of the excesses on that day. The Ghana Army must remain a symbol of discipline, home and abroad. The uniform and gun must be feared as a protective security brand commanding public support, and not one that evokes images of insecurity, especially in the poor, hate, or anything that compromises our collective security and undermines our democracy. And that is my take. I'll be right back to introduce my guest to you as we get into the vexed matters.
Close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem.
Oh.
In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Ablakwa, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, my way,
my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
When you are born from Ghanaian soil, you are born rich. Rich in who you are, with natural Ghanaian richness inspired by Mother Nature herself. Just like our premium water, with natural minerals that create pure premium mineral water. Made right here by the same Ghanaian soil that made you. Voltic. Own your richness. Voltic, a product of the Coca-Cola Company. This advert is FDA approved.
Since inception, almost 100% of Ashesi University students have found jobs, started businesses, or gone on to graduate school within 6 months of graduation. From Accra to Nairobi, London to New York, Ashesi graduates are noticed and they are leading successful careers. If you dream of a rewarding life and career, an Ashesi education prepares you for just that. Learn more about applying to Ashesi at www.ashesi.edu.gh.
Joy 99.7 FM.
As a leading cable manufacturer in the sub-region, providing homes and commercial spaces with top-of-the-range and global standard cables for all your electrification purposes at very convenient prices. With strong confidence in our effectively standardized cables, we bridge the gap between quality and safety, giving you the desired peace of mind to enjoy your homes and be productive in your commercial spaces with zero fear for fire outbreaks due to installation of inferior cables. Our trained team provides you with excellent customer service and give you expert advice that guarantees value for money. No matter the quantity, we provide you with free delivery within Accra and Tema. You can never get it wrong with Signal Cables.
Contact us for more inquiries and free delivery on 0246 304 309. Signal Cable, 10 Nations Cable.
Hello CEOs, are you ready? The 7th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo is here. The foremost business conference for over 500 topmost CEOs, heads of state, business leaders and ambassadors to be held on the 22nd of May 2023 at the Kempinski Hotel on the theme Economic Sovereignty, Sustainability and Digital Industrial Transformation, New Path for Growth and Prosperity. This impactful summit has attracted over 2,000 high-level dignitaries, including His Excellencies President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and ex-president John Mahama. Be enlightened with actionable perspectives, CEO performance strategies, strategic insights on the latest business trends through CEO masterclasses, plenaries, keynote, expert insights, and CEO peer networking sessions. Register to participate at GhanaCEOSummit.com. For inquiries, call 0546-391970 or 0244-687222. The Ghana CEO Summit and Expo is powered by Ghana CEO Network in partnership with Deloitte, Ministry of Public Enterprises, GIPC, SIGA, and the Multimedia Group. T's and C's apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Right, so hoping that by 10 o'clock you would have been educated enough, because he says he's on a mission to make sure that you become some sort of an expert in the minerals industry when it comes to talking about gold. I'm talking about the Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, Martin A.C. Thank you so very much for making time to join us today.
Samson, morning.
Good morning. On the second half, we shall have Fatima Abubakar, Deputy Minister for Information, Suleiman Abrahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, and Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, MP North Tongue and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, and subsequently will also be joined by Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah, Executive Director of the National Cathedral Secretariat. So I discovered that you are a barrister at law. You have done as many as 2 master's degrees in law, and I was curious, have you attempted to check how many laws we have to regulate mining? There are over 20, about 23 of them.
More than that.
More than that?
Yes. More than that, because then you have the mainstream, if you like, hardcore mining laws, like the Act, and about 6 or so regulations. Then you have a few amendments to some acts and regulations.
Yes, I counted them.
Then you have the EPA laws.
Okay.
That have a relationship with mining.
That's good.
Water resources, because you can't do without water in mining. So if you need to impound water to process, you need a water permit. So you run into about 25 plus.
25 plus laws to regulate this particular sector. So would you agree that the situation we find ourselves, where our forest is in danger, our water bodies in danger, leading to the president having to, take this step, is a questioning of regulatory failure? Nothing more.
Something. I'm happy you've given me this platform, and I hope we will sustain it, because there's so much to throw out there for people to know. And then good morning to your viewers and maybe listeners, those who are listening. I will be the first, like my minister, to admit that Galamsey is not over. I will not say we have failed. I can understand the outrage and the anger, Ghanaians. You see, when people switch on their telly, the anger, the outrage of Ghanaians is that water body that looks like apple juice or Milo, or perhaps what you are wearing.
That's right.
That is the anger.
And if the minister says that he cannot boast of one single stream, water body, that is fit for purpose, how does failure look like?
Well, you are only looking at it from one angle. Maybe as we discuss, you can understand the situation better. I'll be the first to admit to say that the situation is not satisfactory. That is a fact. And it will be foolhardy on my part to sit here and say, the fight has been won, it's all over, Ghanaians can go and sleep, you can go and drink that water. That is not the case. But I want you to, but government is doing a lot. I want you to give me like 5 minutes to just delve into a little bit of history and then the state of play in the small scale sector. Just
Please
5 minutes.
Please do.
Then we can get into the real meat. Something. ASM has been with us as far back as the 15th century. So folks in that kind areas, particularly like these are Ashanti brothers and sisters.
ASM, artisanal mining.
Yes, artisanal and small scale mining. They've been using gold for the past, since the 15th century. Throughout the colonial period, it was discouraged. Even right from independence. And you'll be shocked to know that lawful small-scale activities started in 1989. Just 1989, how many years ago? About 36 years ago. So right down from prehistoric times throughout the colonial era until 1989, what was happening? When it rains, people find these gold nuggets and stuff behind their area. Or they have this panning kind of, if you like, wooden structural equipment. They go and scoop, put it, no mercury those days, and then they just pan for gold and then off they go. By 1989, we realized that a country like Togo, which practically produces no gold, a lot of gold was being traded. Same in Ivory Coast. So quickly, through some World Bank assistance, we had to formalize the sector. So 3 laws were quickly passed. The Mercury Law, PNDC Law 217, 1989. PNDC Law 218, which is a small-scale gold law. So that was the first formal attempt to legalize small-scale mining. And then PMC law was passed for the purchase of the buying, 219. Then I think in 2006, all these laws were integrated into the minerals and mining law. So proper legal framework to regulate the sector started in 1989. Now, something. Until recently, you can only talk about small-scale mining in just about 5 regions. Ashanti region, Eastern, Central, Western region, which has now been split into 2, Western region and Western North, and where you come from, Boga, Upper East, that particular enclave. This is where small-scale mining has been going on. Today, as we speak, save Oti, where I come from, I happen to be the chief of my village. Even I've been told there are some gold deposits there now. Greater Accra region, and Volta region. You are having about 12 to 13 regions where small-scale mining is taking place now. So we need to understand that. Now, when I joined Minerals Commission 2002, I started from the lowest officer grade, assistant officer. We're talking about 500,000 Ghanaians in small-scale mining. Something, you're talking about more than 10% of the population whose livelihood depends on small-scale mining. Our last check, you're talking about no less than 3 million people. There are more people in small-scale mining than cocoa today. Yes, practically almost everywhere cocoa is grown, small-scale mining takes place. And then you have the 5 northern regions where small-scale is taking place, you don't have cocoa.
Revealing stuff.
Yes. You need to understand the context. So you see, when people get up and say, let's ban it, either they don't have the understanding or they don't have the situation on the ground. So to wrap up, about 12 or so 13 regions, small-scale mining is going on. You're talking about 3 million people involved in small-scale. This is direct and indirect. Let me just touch on what I mean. You see, the gentlemen or those people who go into the pit there and then go and do those stuff there, they are directly involved. Now, that lady who comes to mount a foot joint at the mining site to sell water, to sell food, we count all of them there but for the mining side, what is she coming to do there? That's employment. It's just like you have people who are directly employed at Joy FM here, and then those that come here to perform, let's say, cleaning services. They may not be employed here, but because they are getting a contract, they have something to live on. So over 3 million people, about 12, 13 regions. If you look at the receipts, a few figures so that you can understand, again, the state of play. 2018, large-scale production and revenue was about 3.4 billion. Small-scale brought $2.4 billion, more than cocoa. 2019, 3.9 billion large-scale, small-scale 2 billion. And last year, it did about 1.3 billion. So it's important we understand the statistics. So that is the state of play, the numbers, the jobs, etc. Now, there are some areas in Ghana here, the entire community livelihood is all mining. Take the places like Takwa, Prestia, which actually grew out of a mining town, Diaso, Dentra. Even where you come from, all these areas, mining is taking place. Mining sustains livelihoods there. Everything that is happening there is all mining. So that is the situation we are faced with. Now, what is happening is this. We find ourselves where people are now engaged in all kinds of things. The summary you give, destruction of water bodies, destruction of forests, etc. The question is, what is causing the galamsey? Having told you the 12, 13 regions, having given you the numbers, having given you the data and the export receipts, if you ask me, what is driving all those things? I'll touch on 5 points. Then we can now get to what government is doing, why is the problem.
Let's do that quickly. Yeah.
Yes. One, most people will be shocked to hear this, but then if you ask me, one of the biggest drivers of galamsey or illegal mining is getting a place for the miners to work. That is a very fundamental issue. Getting a place for them to work. You see, the large-scale people, this is what they do. They look for an area, apply, spend time and do exploration. So anything between 7 to even as high as 15, 20 years, they find the resource, they apply for license, they start mining. In small scale, there's nothing like prospecting. So it's difficult to get a place for them. So what do? Try or luck. So they just get up and dig anywhere. If they happen to hit, they call it a vein. Then you see them congregating. If they are lucky and the place is free, they approach us with license for them. So what we have not done well as a nation over the years is to invest in what we call geological investigation. That is the #1 problem because they don't do exploration. So, and it costs millions of dollars. What are we supposed to do every year? Get something out of the budget, hand it over to. Fortunately, we have a public institution that has a capacity to do that geological survey. Give them the money, they do the exploration, we pass it out the place. So that is it. Interesting story before I go to point #2. A mining company in Central Region got, and then they have a property that also cut across. They got overwhelmed by Galamsey, huge resource good identified. Then they surrendered the ground to government or to Minerals Commission. So we sent the district inspector or officer there to go and find out what is the situation on the ground. He went there, about 10,000 people there. Here's what he found. The small-scale miners in their 1,000 were on this side of the, what do you call it, the concession. And then, guess what? The data we got of a mining company showing where the gold is here. Okay? Even that one, they were getting something. So that tells you that geological investigation is key. We've not done that. What is government doing now? They understand they've given us some money to geological survey, even to UMAT, to do exploration. These things will take time. So in the interim, how are you licensing the small-scale miners? If licenses expire, we block the area, we give it to them. That's number one. Two, if the large-scale people voluntarily give us the grounds, we block it, we give it to them. And they've been very cooperative. that comes with data and the surrender report, we give it to them. Then the areas where Minerals Commission has also designated as small-scale areas, we give it to them. Then what is quite common now is where the small-scale miners come up with their own coordinates, we check if it's free, we give it to them. Well, that's what we are doing. But in the medium to long term, the solution will be to spend millions of dollars and do what do you call it, geological investigation. The second one is the licensing regime. Maybe that is what Prof touched a little bit in his report. Something, if he's going to take a small-scale miner a year, 2-3 years to get a license, he could as well go and start. I'm not endorsing that, but because you see, once he puts in an application and he doesn't get a license quickly, what is going to happen is that he fears colleagues or people around can come over around the place. So he could as well go and start. How we fix it down? Today, we do licensing Monday to Sunday. So as you speak, you can put in your application. So that problem is over. At least on the part of Minerals Commission, the delays in the licensing regime can be fixed. You can invite the association, they can speak to that. So that has seen significant improvement within the last 2-3 years. Now, the next three is where the problem is. Something, what I want you to understand is that this involves a lot of money. Okay, it's like the drug trade. Too much money. And for some people, no matter what they do, they'll go there. So people see it as quick money, they got to go there and make something. 12 million, they go to the water body. So the kind of rents and the kind of money involved is also what is driving that. And then maybe what I would say, the complicity of everyone. The complicity of everyone. But before I come to that, I want to touch on the sanctions regime. For instance, something, just this Monday, the holiday, the small-scale task force and the Minerals Commission office in Oda arrested 3 Yemenis. And then impounded 2 excavators, which are now parked at the police station. Then a chief showed up, says, I hire media. This is my site. So quickly, the police arrested them. The locals who were working fled. They've been arrested. We got the authorities involved. I think they've been granted police inquiry bail. Now, something here is what I want the general public to understand. Now, if this chief and these 3 Yemenis, you even put the Yemenis aside, if this chief where everybody in the community knows that he's involved in the Galamsey, is not taken to the full rigor of the law, and is not prosecuted and put in jail, what does that mean? It means that for the community, here's a chief who is involved in Galamsey, they arrested him, he's been granted bail, he's come back, he's still doing it. That is impunity. So the signal you are sending out there to those who are living in the community that we can get away with it. So our attitude, our behavior is what, look, the penalties and then the sanction regime is very punitive. What we should be seeing is that they should be biting. So for instance, this chief, if he's convicted by the court in Oda and is put in jail and is well publicized, just like I was told, Aisha Wan has been convicted now. And then between now...
She has admitted to one aspect of the offense.
That's fine.
Yeah, so the trial is on.
The trial is on, so we can leave that. But what I'm trying to say is that persons who are arrested, if these are well publicized, and then they are put in jail. The so-called influential people, which includes some chiefs and some political architects, etc., are arrested and put in jail. And then these are, shown to the public that, look, this person has been arrested, maybe some DC, some chief, or some political actor has been put in jail. Then you are sending a strong signal to everybody that, hey, you can go to jail.
All right.
So that is it. And then to wrap it up, so that's the complicity. And then I'm struggling. I'm trying to ask myself this simple question. This thing has been going on for some days or months or years in a community. We have local government administration, we have police people there. Okay? They are not saying this. So the Minerals Commission district officer goes round. Fortunately, he has a vehicle now. He picks the coordinates. Then he goes to tell maybe those who matter that, look, there are some people here who are doing galamsey. Remember, some years back, you could just go there and drive them away and ask them to come for license. Today, they are carrying guns. Okay, that is the situation now. And you've seen that some of the areas. So, in brief, these are the drivers.
Right.
These are the numbers involved. These are the receipts, and what is the state of
Very interesting point. Very interesting. But so, Prof. Mpom is right when he says the gradual deterioration of the environment in the mining sector is due to lapses in the functions of the regulatory agencies, especially the Minerals Commission and the Forestry Commission. The complaints you make, I see where district assemblies have to play their role,
yes,
where chiefs have to play their role, where even the community members have to play their role. The police and the Attorney General also have to play their role. But it starts with you.
It starts with me, or Minerals Commission, and I'll explain our role and our bit. We are the regulatory body. What are we supposed to do? Receive application, process them, and then make sure that they get the appropriate authorization or approvals to work. Then we are supposed to get to the ground and monitor them.
Exactly.
Now, in the past, there has been some challenges with resources. For instance, I have just told you that close to about 12 or 13 regions now, small-scale mining. So it means you need men on the ground. You need a lot of inspectors, you need a lot of engineers to be there to do the monitoring and inspection. You need offices, you need tools and equipment. That I'm saying that within the last 2 years, that has been provided by government. Something I'm not boasting, but I can tell you that today, within the last 2 years, the Minerals Commission is one of the most resourced public institutions in Ghana today.
We thank God.
We are not capped, just hang on, we are not capped. We never take our budget to minister, it is reduced. We go to Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee even tries to increase it for us. So the tools we need to work with, the modern gadgets, the men, the offices, the vehicles, we now have them. So, and this is within the last 2-3 years, fantastic. I'm just telling you that you cannot do weekends, etc. So, in the past, the guy will have to wait to Monday and go to the office. Now, he can do application for small-scale mining now. Right. So that is the improvement we are bringing in the regulatory bit.
The reason we had the Interministerial Mining Committee,
yes,
was because you, the Minerals Commission, Forestry Commission, and all the other authorities had failed in the discharge of your duties. But you in particular, that you give license and you have to monitor to ensure that the right things are being done. And yet the wrong things were going on for years. There was a ban. You just gave us the statistics about the revenue from the sector. Within the year where you mentioned in excess of $3 billion coming to the country through this, there have been ban. The last figure you gave us, which has reduced about $1.something billion, the ban is not as effective. The ban is no more there. Doesn't that tell you that when it is said that this boils down to regulatory failure, that's just what it is.
Something I disagree. I don't agree with you. You see, before you started the question, your introductory remarks, you said police, chiefs, attorney general, you mentioned all kinds of institutions. Maybe that may be answering part of your question. So that tells you that the problem is multifaceted. You see, when the president was setting up interministerial committee, he had a clear vision, or he knew what he was about, because the report he was getting is that several institutions and actors need to be brought together to deal with the problem. That is why interministerial was set up, and then so many ministers were brought in. Why do you think Interior and then Defense were brought in? Because people were carrying guns. There are security issues here. Why was the water resources brought in? The water, what do you call it, the sanitation ministry. So EP and co. So everybody was brought together to look at how to deal with the issue of illegal mining, which went beyond the regulator. Now, in the case of the regulatory body, he made a specific, what do you call it, comments, okay, that the regulator has become, like, let me put it this way, for want of a better word, was not well equipped to perform its activities.
And non-cooperative.
I'll come to that. And I'm saying that bit that has to touch on the fact that the regulator is not well equipped is no more. We are well equipped now. So we cannot say that we don't have the men or we don't have the resources to go around and do our work. That is it. But then don't also forget that bit that has to do with other actors.
Right.
Okay? But let me answer the bit on the uncooperative attitude. I'm sure you have gone through the report like anybody else.
Yes, the IMC, as we understand, had vetted and given licenses to close to 2,000 small-scale miners.
That is where
to operate legally, legally and sustainably. And we understand that apparently the Lands Ministry and your outfit were angry that the IMC was at the forefront of matters concerning small-scale mining, which you said were your functions that they were seeking to usurp. Therefore, you decided to effectively sabotage the process.
Maybe the word sabotage is too strong, but something, let me explain how government works. In the first place, interministerial is not a regulatory body. You need to understand that. It was not set up to regulate mining. It was set up to deal with the issues arising from illegal mining that is eating up this country.
Because the regulator had failed to do its job effectively.
No, in your earlier statement, you keep repeating, because you see there are issues. Let me ask you something. I go to your village where there's a lot of mining now. The Minerals Commission officer goes around Bolga, picks intelligence that there are about 40 people here doing small-scale mining, well armed. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to relay this information to the security apparatus. Then they organize, do a sweep, and arrest them.
That's right.
You don't expect an officer who has no gun or he's not trained to do that to go and arrest people.
Certainly not.
And I'm telling you that 5, 10, 6 years ago, it was not the case. So you need to understand these dynamics. Now, interministerial is not a regulatory body. Under the laws of Ghana, the person or the entity or the person who is authorized to grant licenses is a minister responsible for mines. Today we see the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources acting on the recommendation of the Minerals Commission. So the expectation is that if we have 6, 7 ministers go and sit down, brainstorm and say, look, there's this bit that touches on, let's say, environment or mining or this. You prepare a brief and then the minister is written to. So if it is environment, EPA, the minister responsible to environment is written to, the minister for mining is written to, then he will now write to Minerals Commission and say, at our last meeting at interministerial, these decisions have been taken. Can you go ahead and take action to process these licenses? Because if you go around and you are launching community mining schemes, you see, any authorization approval you give to somebody has to be situated in law. It has to be anchored in law. That is one. So I'm happy he said in his report that he faced opposition from the minister who supposedly was supposed to be on the committee. What does that tell you? Okay? So don't even come to Minerals Commission level. So these were some of the things. So we were expecting to get instructions to say these policy decisions have been made. So take steps to action them. Because you see, you get up and then you go and launch a community mining site. We were getting a lot of reports from the large-scale mining companies that their lands were being taken and launched for community mining. And then when you say community mining, you are giving...
so you can work collaboratively to resolve that rather than seek...
because you see...
This was a special situation. And this was a special purpose vehicle.
But we are a country of laws. Sure that we are a country of laws. That is why even if you need to declare a state of emergency today, the president, as soon as possible, will have to go to parliament. We are a country of laws.
There was a reason why even all those who claim to have had licenses were required to submit them for vetting.
Yes, to submit.
And not to submit them for vetting by you, but by the committee.
You are assisting me answer even the question in a very simple way. All those licenses, all those data and all those things were taken there. The Minerals Commission officers, those from EP and everybody went there to go and do the vetting. And then they said, oh, that is fine. So the expectation is that you need to do X, Y, Z. The instructions go to the minister. Then the minister writes to the CEO of the Minerals Commission. And then we take action. So the Minerals Commission, which is a creature of the Constitution, a minister who is responsible for issuing licenses sits there. And then you are called midnight that we are going to launch community mining sites. Then companies who have lawfully come here to do business start complaining that, look, our lands are being taken to give to people to do mining. We've not been told, we've not been informed. We are not against government policy. That's the kind of thing that was going on. So then the chairman of the Minerals Commission, the then SK Bafu, says, you cannot do things this way. You are under instructions by the president to sanitize the sector. Just prepare your policy briefs and the directives, pass it on to the regulator to implement.
So
this is where...
Your job of licensing.
Yes.
How do you explain that when you say now you have taken control and you're able to do all of these things within good time and sort of all is clean and well? How do you answer that when mining is sort of prohibited within a certain radius of a water body? There were red zones that were declared, there were yellow zones that were declared, and yet you have Minerals Commission giving out licenses to people to mine, and where they are mining straddle critical water bodies, including the Ankobra, Pra, Tano, and Ofin Basin.
Something. It's not true. You see, let me explain this to you. When you lodge an application, the district officer and inspector will have to take it to the ground. They know their job. You can't mine within or undertake an operation within 100 meters from the water body. So even if your concession is 25 acres and you have about 5 out of it, they will tell you that you can take the 5 out. So there is no way Minerals Commission will issue license to anybody to go within a buffer zone. That is one.
Let me show you some evidence.
Yes.
They, at least about 6 of them, Eroka Ghana, they show you the evidence about a company, for example, Unipower Mining Company Limited. And where is the mining going on? River Tano. And it has a license from 2022 to 2032. 2022, when you issue this license. The application was made on the 26th of August 2019. There is Cape North Limited. It is mining on the Ankobra River. The license is applied for on the 22nd of September 2022. We have again Unipower on the Pra River with a license applied for February 19, 2022. We have Bex Gold on the Ofin River, Ofin Basin. License applied for 3rd April 2020. 2 more. Open job mining. License applied for 1st July 2020 on the Ofin Basin, and you have K. Kukum Ventures also on the Ofin Basin, and license 28th of December 2021. That's when they applied, and they got the approval 8th of July 2022, and they are mining until 7th July 2027.
Something straightforward answer. To start with, before you can carry out any mining activities, you need 3 approvals. The license or the lease, properly so-called, signed by the minister on the recommendation of the Minerals Commission. You need an EPA permit, and then you need the operating permit that allows you to go to the land and work from the Chief Inspector of Mines of the Minerals Commission. My memory stressed me strongly. None of these people have all the approvals. So if anybody is doing anything there, then it is illegal.
The license they have straddles these places, which is prohibited.
No, hang on. You see, unless there is some mischief, not from you or whoever sent you this information, Minerals Commission has not recommended the grant of license for anybody to mine or River Cobra or Pra. So in the first place, that is a lie. It is not true. It's not true. We don't grant. You know why? You see, if you want to exploit a water body for any natural resource, I am familiar with the law.
First, you said there's no evidence.
What I
show you the evidence.
No,
and Eroka Ghana is a very serious entity within this.
Just as Minerals Commission is also a very serious institution within this field.
They certainly have an integrity, they will not want to say that.
So I am challenging them.
These specifics are on river bodies, and that is not the case.
No, that's not the case, because there is no way Minerals Commission will recommend the issuance of a license on a water body. I'll tell you how the system works. In the event anybody wants to even issue, give a permit for anybody to exploit a water body, the first place you go is Water Resources Commission. You don't even come to the Minerals Commission. So, for example, recently VRA wanted to dredge the Adan area, to clear these waters in it and all this. You have to go to Water Resources to clear you. You need to go to EPA to clear you. If it's a forest reserve, you have to get forest entry permit before you come to the Minerals Commission. That's how it works. But you see, his statement is categorical that they've been giving license to mine on Ankobra and Ofin, and I'm saying it is not true.
You are supposed
if he's saying that they have licenses within the vicinity, that's okay.
The licenses straddle these entities.
Yes, but you said that they've been giving licenses to mine on Ankobra.
I was clear. I stated that they straddle these entities, and they are seen working on these river bodies.
They are working on a river body. Something, let's get this clear. When you have somebody who has a license, because as far as I'm concerned, they don't have the authority to work. They've not completed their approvals. So people who are working there may be what? Illegal miners.
Okay.
Unless I have I have a very strong reason to believe that they've been done. Now look, as I speak here, practically almost all the large-scale companies have their tenements being invaded by small-scale.
Last week I was asking you a question I didn't clearly get an answer to. You're supposed to install tracking devices on the earth-moving equipment, excavators.
We started.
Not you started. This is the law that you got in 2020 to empower you to do this. And you are taking fees for the purpose. So there is not supposed to be an excavator moving without you knowing where they are.
Something. I started by telling you how the system works. Now, distinguish between those who sell excavators and those who have been given licenses to work. So, here's the situation. If you're a small-scale miner, you understand that, and this is your license area, any earth-moving, not just excavators, any earth-moving equipment that you bring to the site has to be fitted with a tracking device. The place is geofenced. You move it, it will cut off if you go outside your concession. That's what we are doing now. But we have realized that we need to step up the game. So even now, all those who is it drive or whatever, the excavators and all those who operate them, we are asking that they should be registered. So in the next month or so, we'll do that. So if you find somebody operating an excavator at a mine site, he has not got a license or he has not been registered with the Minerals Commission, that means that he's operating it legally. So it is the excavators and earth-moving equipment within lawful concessions that are being registered. Maybe going forward, what we need to do is that if somebody is selling excavator, like this shop, if you have 100 excavators here, perhaps we need to get all the database, work with DVLA, so that when you sell two to Mr. X or Kwabna,
right,
then we know where it is moving. But for now, the excavators we are tracking are the ones within the concessions. And you see, at all material times, something, you need to distinguish between an illegality and a legality. You don't expect an inspector or Minerals Commission to go to an illegal site. At best, what he can do is that he goes, if he gets any intelligence or either through tip-off or his monitoring, picks information that some people are working here. And then
the government got evidence and told us in plain language that Akonta Mining was involved in the wrong thing in the Nimrim forest. What has been your role to ensure that that impunity is not stopped? You have been concerned about impunity. We have seen a police commander whose backyard, right under his nose, mining was going on in the Elembele.
Was it the case of the judge or the police?
I'm talking about police.
But
there was one that the DCE stopped.
And then we have seen cases of police station behind mining is taking place. But let me explain this to you. Maybe you need to bring the CEO of Forestry Commission to come and explain that, because I don't deal with Forestry Commission issues. I have no authority over what happens in the forest. So I will not be fair to him. If I make a comment now, I will not be fair to him.
Okay, so let's conclude this way. What for you now, where we are now, how do we go forward in some 2 minutes? How do we go? How is the Minerals Commission seeing what we must do to win this fight?
Not just Minerals Commission, but maybe it will start. I'll start making some forward-looking things. You see, something. Let's split it into two: the enforcement mechanism and then the reformative efforts. These two must go hand in hand. One, the enforcement mechanism. As a nation, when people see people being sanctioned, okay, when you see some chiefs, anyway, some chiefs are lovely, getting the fight to the needed conclusion. The public must see a lot of people going to jail, a lot of people being severely punished. You see, when we see these things, then you realize that people, it will deter, at least bring it to the barest minimum. So that bit, a lot of work has to be done.
Okay.
I see Attorney General doing some wonderful work prosecuting. So, for example, it is my expectation that having gone through the law, this chief that was arrested at Odan Asumdwe should go into jail. After you take him through the due process, and then those Yemenis jail, it should be well publicized. We should be saying more of this thing. That's one. And then two, look, the hard truth is this. An excavator is about $240,000. That ordinary Frafra guy in Boga or from my village, Rara, cannot afford that. So clearly it tells you that somebody is behind it. There must be, if you like, let's use the word kingpin. So it's high time now that security agencies, people are trained for that. Is it BNI and all those things? Go after the kingpins. But if you keep arresting that ordinary guy in Boga, in Kako and Co., the problem will not go away. Because you go and put that 6-7 guys into jail, okay? The man will still bring other people and then give them money. So we need to go after the kingpins. We will need to let people understand that we want to see people going to jail or people being severely punished. Then, on the reforms, we will need to do more geological investigation so that we can get mineralizers for the small-scale miners. So these are some of the things that we should be doing. Okay. Government is doing it best. But for me, the sanctions regime is everything.
Martin Acey, CEO of the Minerals Commission, thank you very much. And as he has said, that he's on a mission to find time to help educate and to sustain the process to ensure that we do not lose the Galamsey fight completely, because the very day we do, then our existence, we can determine what happens to our existence, because Galamsey is an existential threat.
But in a second, Samson, you see, I know my time is up. The way the press, the likes of your station and other stations are quick in reporting Galamsey issues, water being polluted and all those in forestry, etc. The way they are, which we laud them for it, because you see, when you don't bring this into attention of the public, people will know. Kudos for that. We want you also to be following the story too, for those who have been arrested. So for instance, I want Joy FM and then the other stations to follow up at the Odam police station and find out what is happening to this chief and then these 3 Yemenis who have been arrested.
Those who are prosecuting, maybe they should... Those who are prosecuting, that's what my suggestion to them. Those who are prosecuting, maybe do what you find. The police now, they have centralized their information system, so yes, you can't even get information from the districts and other commands. Keep updating. And you are a key stakeholder. You are an authority. Ensure if it has to take a whip, as in from the presidency, to all those involved, to keep updating the nation. If you arrest somebody, issue a statement, take it to the press. When the prosecution is going on, speak to the press, let them know what is going on. That's part of it. No, thank you very much. I'm sorry, but we are doing very well. Because you see, I'm just telling you about this. This has been Newsfile. Our first segment will get into the questioning of press freedom and the National Cathedral shortly. And this show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strongest a group and closest a partner, MTN. Everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on the MTN to join. Duraplus, how you get your water matters. Remember, where Duraplus goes, water flows. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie, and Rehoboth Social Housing. Your housing dream become reality. We'll be right back.
Charlie, close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem, in the sun problem, common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert & Sons. Oh, yeah. Then my chick to him, I know correct, cry. Where Robert & Sons sort them out sharp. Now, so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert & Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Ablakwa, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, my way,
my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
When you are born from Ghanaian soil, you are born rich. Rich in who you are, with natural Ghanaian richness inspired by Mother Nature herself. Just like our premium water, with natural minerals that create pure premium mineral water. Made right here by the same Ghanaian soil that made you. Voltic. Own your richness. Voltic, a product of the Coca-Cola Company. This advert is FDA approved.
Joy 99.7 FM.
never stops until the job is done. Turn your home and business into an internet highway and experience the revolution of working and playing without limits. Visit broadband.mtn.com.gh to sign up for MTN Fiber for home and business today.
Hello and welcome to OMV and Sons Company Limited. We are the sole importers and distributors of Puncture Save tie sealant. Puncture Save is a product that you put in a car tie to prevent punctures from occurring. What it basically does is that you put them in your car tie through the valves so that anytime anything pierces the tie, instead of air coming out to deflate the ties, Puncture Save will come out automatically to seal the ties without even you noticing. Now, this product is 95% organic and then it is water-based. Now, this is the green going for extra heavy-duty trucks. Wine, that is for heavy-duty trucks. We have the blue here for high speed, the motorbikes, the saloon cars, the SUVs. We are located at Kokomlemle, directly opposite Joy FM. You can contact us on 0595756449. You can also contact us on 0302 246 550.
Hi, good day. Your friend is Dr. Victor Nana Dankwa, because every big dank healthcare. Your friend is in Conforco Hospital, like catch up someone your liver and kidney related conditions. Obi on my fatty liver. Obi on my catch so when your hydronephrosis. Obi on my catch so when your pyelonephritis, which is inflammation of the kidneys. Obi on my catch and send the kidney issue so be a big now. Obi on my send the creatinine and I send the JFR. And until we so how now sit to me tatai. I feel don't send me an atom. Johnson now be Johnson, who was a phone be about training, Kawakuma Toy, and until Vicdan Healthcare, Yabase, yet an alternative way so ever so Yare.
So over Vicdanka, it was serene environment with ultra modern facilities. As I was share your track there was Painters, Coca-Cola Runabout, close to Fidelity Bank, Stanchart Ichironuma.
Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. Hope we'll go beyond the blame game and, take the bull by the horn to resolve this problem of galamsey. Now, as you know, the Press Freedom Rankings, Ghana successively is doing quite poorly. What exactly is the problem? Some are beginning to narrow down on mainly the misuse, it is said, of the laws that criminalize false news, so to speak, in the Criminal Act and also in the Electronic Communications Act. So at the occasion of the World Press Freedom Day, the Justice of the Court of Appeal, Justice Dennis Dominic J., who is also a judge in the Africa Court, said it is wrong for the state or the country to criminalize what it calls false publication, when in fact people can be allowed to resort to civil law to deal with those matters. In recent times, if you recall, a number of issues have come up as far as the use of that law is concerned. There have been very, very deep concerns about the use of that law in dealing with people like journalists like the Ada in Ada, Radio, Ada Radio, Noah Na Dame, there was the Bobia Ansa situation. In this case, this journalist, the radio station, are reported to have issues or criticizing the manner in which the salt concession is being dealt with. And it involves an individual, Magdan. And so why not allow the individual to go to court to redeem himself, rather than have the state, through the police, arrest that individual, take him to court, and the court actually refuses him bail, and he's kept in custody for a week or more, is it? You had Bobia Ansa, who spoke about the First Lady having acquired some property or some land, and he got arrested by the police to be for trial. Mensa Thompson spoke about the president's travel and things. He also got arrested. So the questions are that the president's family, the questions are, these are civil, there are civil remedies to this. Why do you continue to do that? And this could explain why Ghana is doing so poorly in the rankings. Is that the case? Let's begin the conversation with one of the key media trainers and watchers. Suleiman Abrahima is Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Sule, let's hear you first, and then we have Fatima Abubakar, Deputy Minister for Information. Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is MP North Tongue and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. Sule, let's hear you.
Minister and my friend Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. I think what is happening on our press freedom front is certainly something that is quite disturbing, given the history of Ghana when it comes to press freedom. Over a certain period of time, we were either second, third in Africa, and in fact, in 2018, we were number one in Africa. So to now get to a situation where globally we are ranked in the 60s, it's something that is certainly a worrying development. And it is also particularly so because, to a large extent, the state of your press freedom reflects the state of your democracy. And so if you have a situation where press freedom is deteriorating, then certainly what is happening is that in terms of the quality of your democracy, there is also something fundamentally going wrong. I think the reasons why Ghana is doing quite bad on press freedom over the last couple of years, the reasons are quite many. You've cited the application of the law on publication of false news. But I would fundamentally say that the problem is because we have a government that has been living in some self-denial. You present the facts and it is denied. And one can make mention of a number of instances. So we kept warning, we kept ringing the alarm bells that, look, press freedom conditions are getting bad in the country. And this was way back in 2019, that we need to begin to do something about our press freedom conditions. We were repeatedly told, no, that is not the case. To a point where the president himself now decided to reduce the whole issue to a debate about whether or not journalists can be criticized. Because he says, look, we are crying over press freedom because journalists don't want to be criticized. When they are criticized, they term that, an attack. So it got to a point where you had party officials, political appointees, referencing that statement and saying, oh, journalists, they think they cannot be criticized. When you criticize them, they say you are attacking them. Now, apart from that, even 2020, early 2020, the Bobia Ansa incident had happened and a few others had happened. And again, we started ringing the alarm bells. And we had one of the advisors, the presidential advisors of media, Madam Elizabeth Ohene, actually writing a piece, literally attacking the Media Foundation, accusing us of being biased against the government for saying what we are saying, including an interview that I had done with the BBC, talking about the state of our press freedom. 2 days later, the Reporters Without Borders ranking was released, and Ghana had dropped from its 30th position to the 60th position. Now, when that happened, the expectation for me was to say, look, what can we do as a country? Let's accept what has been reported and then diagnose the problem and take steps to remedy the situation. What did we hear? We heard government officials talking about, oh, the drop was because they had changed methodology. Oh, they said it was the economy that was the problem. As if the methodology that was used for Ghana was different from what was used to put Burkina Faso, put Sierra Leone, put the Gambia, put Cote d'Ivoire ahead of us. It was the same methodology that was used. And to talk about the economy, certainly Ghana's economy, yes, we are in difficulties, but the media economy in Ghana cannot certainly be compared to the situation in places like Sierra Leone, the Gambia, Burkina Faso, which has far smaller economy that can support the media. So the problem really is about a government that is not prepared to, accept the facts and then we deal with it. But something, the last point I would want to say is that, and I would just basically want to repeat what President Akufo-Addo said, then candidate Akufo-Addo, in 2011, when the law on publication of false news had been used to invite Ato Kwame Nadazi, then with Multimedia Group, and Nana Adumako Befi, who had claimed on top radio that the fire incident at former President Rawlings's house was an incident of arson. So these were the two incidents that the police had gotten involved. But in relation to those two incidents, President Akufo-Addo said, and I quote him, that despite the repeal of the criminal and seditious libel laws, media freedom is threatened by some of the arcane laws still in our statute books. Then he says, this has become particularly apparent since the government of the National Democratic Congress assumed office in January 2009 after winning the 2008 general elections. Bereft of the convenient tools of criminal and seditious libel laws, the ruling government has had to comb through the criminal code to seize upon the offense of offensive conduct conducive to breach of the peace and the sister offense of publication of false news likely to cause fear and alarm to the public. He described this as, and I quote him, a desperate attempt to keep in check robust media by the government. He then went on to say that the problem with the law on publication of false news is that it is, as it stands now, it is overly broad and more directed at the mere expression and the state, a mere expression and the state of mind, namely fear and alarm, which at best of the worlds is difficult to determine. Then he says, as the offense of publication of false news therefore currently stands, it is in my view inconsistent with the constitutional provisions on freedom of expression, being overly broad and accordingly not proportionate to the legitimate public interest sought to be protected. The laws haven't changed. Curiously or ironically, the man who was saying this in 2011 today is the president of our country. And under his regime, these laws are being applied more than any other regime in the Fourth Republic. So the question is, what has changed? And for me, these are the reasons why Ghana keeps dropping in the global press freedom ranking, very, very unfortunately.
So you are in support of the growing calls for the repeal, particularly of Section 76 of the Electronic Communications Act, which is on false communication, and also Section 208 of the Criminal Offences Act, which is on publication of false news with intent to cause fear and alarm to the public. You are for their repeal?
Absolutely. And the Media Foundation joined the GJA, the GIBA and PRIMPAC and GCRN in making a common and a unanimous appeal that those laws have to be repealed, and basically affirming the position of candidate Akufo-Addo, now President Akufo-Addo, as far as the application of those laws are concerned. Right. But in terms of even statistics, if you take the last 4 years of President Kufuor, for which we have data, there were a total of 63 incidents of violations. Under Mahama Mills, and I'll say Mills Mahama because Mills did like 2.5 years, then Mahama continued. There were a total of 56 incidents. Under John Mahama's four-year term, it dropped to 44 incidents. Under President Akufo-Addo's first term, 2017-2020, it increased to 74 incidents of violations. And then 2021-2022, 36 so far. We haven't included what has happened over the last 4-5 months of this year. So if we're talking about 2 years and it's 36, then perhaps it's going to be almost around the same as what
briefly tell us about the nature of these incidents that you refer to.
So generally, we track attacks on journalists. We track arrests and quite often arbitrary arrests, such as what we've been witnessing. The use of the application of the law on publication of false news, and in most instances, is about a defamatory or alleged defamatory statements being made, and then journalists are picked up. We are talking about storming media houses. We are talking about confiscation and seizure of equipment, and we are talking about destruction of equipment, and all those kinds of incidents that journalists are often involved in. And then the whole question about impunity, where people are attacked, abused. You can talk about Latif Idris, you can talk about other journalists who have been abused, and Swale, till date, nothing is happening. So these are the incidents that we have been tracking, and it's been consistent. But under this government, we'll be told, if somebody goes to the sports stadium and then a spectator beats up a journalist, why would we say that is something that the government should be blamed for, and so on? But it's always been the case.
But that's a legitimate question. What should the government be doing about such a situation?
You see something? I don't think that anybody would say that, Honorable Opon Nkrumah or Honorable Fati is the one who abused a journalist, for which reason we blame the government. It is about the government's actions or inaction towards these things. And that is why globally, there's a whole debate about impunity. I cannot enforce the law. It is literally government. And so when we talk about government also, certainly we are not talking about President Akufo-Addo and his cabinet alone. It's about state agencies and state institutions. What is the police doing? And as you know, over time, the security agencies that are supposed to protect us and protect journalists have turned out to be one of the most abusive institutions of our country.
Right.
And so it's about the attitude of the government, like what happened in Tamale recently. The ministry has condemned the incident. Yesterday, I read that the IGP has given an assurance that actions are going to be taken. Yes, those are the steps that you want a government to take to ensure that, or to demonstrate that it is really serious about the issue of protecting the media and press freedom for that matter.
All right, thank you. You hold on there, but I'll come with a question about when you are repealing these laws. There are situations that clearly may need, a criminal sanction. So what do you do to those situations? Because there are the potential for excesses in the exercise of journalism. Yes, Honorable, what do you think about what is going on, particularly that it's now got into a situation where we can't even compare with military regimes?
No, this is definitely worrying. Good morning to you, to the panel, to all distinguished listeners and viewers of Newsfile. As ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, any international assessment that does not put Ghana in good light disturbs me. As a committee, we are interested in how we fare in the Committee of Nations. It is our wish that we'll continue to be a global icon, particularly when it comes to democratic credentials, when it comes to being the Black Star of Africa, all of those key indicators that we have been celebrated for. Not too long ago, we were ranked the best in Africa when it comes to press freedom. And we have been celebrated. Many countries have been asked to emulate our example. So if in recent years, we see that there is a decline. We must all be worried. I agree with Suleimana that this is a matter that the government must take ultimate responsibility. That has always been the case. When other presidents have been in charge, if we do well, they take credit. They themselves are in a hurry to put it in their major speeches and to take all the plaudits and that come with it. They bask in it. The same way, when it's negative, there has to be a very sincere attitude that takes responsibility and that puts steps in place, most importantly, to remedy the situation. If you do the analysis over the period, clearly this is the worst performance in 18 years. Since 2005, we have not scored this level, 62. We've slipped more than 30 places. We are doing worse than countries that used to look up to us not too long ago. Military regime, Burkina Faso, Mali, Sierra Leone. This certainly does not make for glorious reading. And you look at the examples that have been cited, and you really cannot question the methodology. You cannot, as it were, impeach the various experts. Remember that this new methodology has a panel of experts, practitioners, academicians, and human rights defenders who come to assess the situation on the ground. And they have given specific indicators. We've mentioned some practitioners like Usman Kweku Dawood, who was attacked, Prince Akwa of the GNA, there's Derek Adote, Metro TV, and many others. And then they also remind us of Ahmed Hussein Swale, who 4 years on, there is no justice for him, no update, no prosecution, nobody has been identified. Certainly that kind of ecosystem will continue to militate against our upward rise. So we have reached a point where the government of the day must take responsibility. They must stop the intolerance. They must stop the goal shifting, and they must go back to speeches that they themselves presented, positions that they held. And you see, it's quite ironic because we now are being led by key people who you say that they should understand these things better. President Akufo-Addo is credited as Attorney General to have worked with President Kufuor to repeal the criminal libel law.
That's right.
Then we have a Minister of Information who was a very celebrated practitioner, belongs to this prominent media organization, hosted a morning show. I think he did a fine job as a journalist, and I will not take that away from him. So when you have these key persons with such, impressive credentials who understand the issues to do with media freedom and how we can bring to life the beliefs and values espoused in Chapter 12 of the 1992 Constitution, it cannot be acceptable. They have to do better.
What should they be doing? Should they go to police and say, don't arrest a journalist over using these two laws? A journalist has been attacked, so whoever it is who attacked the journalist, what should happen to them? What should they do? They are not the police, they are not the courts.
So the police is under the Ministry of the Interior. The Minister of the Interior sits at cabinet with the minister responsible for information, a cabinet chaired by the president. They need to take this report to cabinet, discuss it, and say all of these excesses that some of these institutions exhibit. We are in charge. We are the executive. There has to be new policy, new guidelines that they must follow. You cannot continue on this trajectory. Because you see, all of these things, don't underestimate the impact, even when it comes to attracting investment.
That's right.
When it comes to people deciding where should I go and do business. and many other, credentials that will help to not only boost our image, but also advance our transformation aspirations. So you want to see, first of all, a departure from that attitude of dismissal. If you recall, last year, there was a lot of effort by government to say, they've changed the methodology, so blame it on the new system that is being used, the new panel. I was not impressed. You see, there are too many occasions that this government, instead of just taking responsibility and saying that, look, this is the same yardstick, same measuring rod for all countries. How come other countries are doing better than us? What are they doing? Why are the Scandinavian countries, for example, always at the top? Can we learn from them? Why is it that in Africa, some countries have been very, very consistent, like Botswana? Why is it that those countries, even when methodologies change, they still perform so well? Let us adapt, learn from best practice, accept the report in good faith, and then take steps. Let me also say that the political actors, a lot of the incidents that I see here, most of the perpetrators are politicians. And here,
the University of Ghana State of the Media report confirms what the Media Foundation for West Africa has been reporting over the years. The majority of those who are guilty are the security agencies.
Yes, the security agencies. Yes. But next to that are the political actors, politicians, supporters, and all of that. And we have to identify all of these persons and take action. I want to see, for example, a statement that is put out at the very top by the president, because we know he understands these issues. He says we should give him credit. I remember at some point there was even a tussle whether the credit should go to him or it should go to President Kufuor. I would say that it always goes to the leader, even though he was Attorney General, so he should also share in that. But let's not be petty. Let us say that the president himself should speak to this, because this decline is the worst decline. He should be saying what? He should say that clearly there is the need for urgent reform. He is going to convene a meeting with the National Media Commission, because I think the National Media Commission too has been too docile, to be very, very sincere with you. Because if you look at chapter 12 of the Constitution, they've been given so much power. They are not expressing that power. They are not exercising it. So they should have a meeting, call all stakeholders, get the heads of all of these security agencies who are the center of the violations. Minister for the Interior, Minister for Defense, the National Security Minister, and that National Security Enclave. They have been the worst perpetrators. I mean, I don't want to begin from Joy FM victims to City FM victims and Modern Ghana victims and all of that. It's too early to depress Ghanaians. So they should be convened, and then there should be fresh guidelines, new impetus. Because look, even the presidents, when was the last time?
They only advise.
When was the last time?
Make suggestions to these institutions. It cannot compel them.
When was the last time the president engaged the media? What happened to his regular media engagements? If he was still doing that, I'm sure you and your colleagues will be letting him know how you feel, the climate. The likes of Manasseh, who not too long ago had to be whisked out of the jurisdiction for safety, they will be telling him in the face. He must restore that. Why has he stopped that engagement? It's been a very long time since the president engaged the media. That's wrong. It's not acceptable in a democracy. The president must take questions from journalists. He must meet journalists.
Well, they tell you that when he travels around the country, he goes to local media stations for interviews.
That's not good enough. That is not good enough. That cannot replace, a more formal engagement.
Do you share in the growing calls now for these two pieces of legislation to be reviewed?
Absolutely, because it is now emerging that those pieces of legislation are negating the gains that we all derived from the repeal of the criminal libel law, totally eroding those gains. So we should consider it seriously. I mean, and when you have the very respected, fine jurists, like said Dennis Ejay, you know, leading this charge. I mean, who am I? I mean, he's somebody I hold in very high esteem. Right. You read his books and you are out by his intellect. So I definitely will support that call.
Right. Justice Dennis Ejay says the repeal of the criminal libel laws in Ghana by the Criminal Code, Repeal of Criminal Libel and Seditious Laws Amendment Act 2001, Act 602, including negligent and intentional libel, was an improvement in the freedom of expression space to leave defamation to be determined by the courts instead of using imprisonment as threats to freedom of expression. He said that one of the main aims of placing restrictions on freedom of expression was to safeguard territorial integrity, public safety, and national security. As far as he is concerned, he says he calls the two laws two ugly sisters of the criminal libel law, which need to be addressed. Thank you very much for also making time to join us, Fatima to Abubakar. I can imagine that where you sit, you cannot be happy at all over the last few years about the fact that the rankings, the nation is dropping at a time that you are at the helm. Hello, Fatih. Please unmute your mic.
Please, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Samson, good morning to you and to your listeners, and of course to my brother Samuel Okujeto and also to my brother Suli. I'm very happy that we get to bring some very important issues about journalists and the media in mainstream discussion. I believe every day you sit on air, but rarely do you get the opportunity to talk about matters that concern your folks. I would also like to use this opportunity to express the gratitude of the Ministry of Information to our stakeholders, the NMC, the GJA, GIBA, CSOs, academic institutions for their invaluable contribution to finding solutions to some of the key problems or issues that we are discussing this morning within the information sector. That being said, I can only reiterate the fact that the regime we have in Ghana, especially after the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution, has been the best since the beginning of the 19th century, where we were first exposed to mass media of any sort. At least we know that we have moved from a system where we had only one TV, one radio, highly censored and controlled, to a situation whereby now under our 1992 Constitution, based on the fundamental guarantees, you don't even need a license to set up a media house in Ghana. That has really helped the country in terms of diversifying ownership and also, of course, the proliferation of media houses in the country, which has one of the widest spectrum in terms of numbers and reach, if you want to look at our West African sub-region in particular. But I believe some of these issues that have come up, of course, has been because of the rankings on the Press Freedom Index by Reporters Without Borders. And before I make my substantive submission, something, I want to remind us that if this conversation is about how to improve Ghana's performance on the Press Freedom Index, then we can never impeach the criteria that has been listed in the index. If the criteria list that economic context you perform 47%, I believe our work should look at how are we going to increase that performance to maybe 60 or 70%. If the criteria says political indicator is 61%, Our conversation will be, what are the issues? How are we going to raise the numbers? We cannot legitimize the reports and then, on the other hand, impeach the criteria listed in that report and now attribute our own reasons for the performance of Ghana on the Press Freedom Index. I heard my brother Sule talk about the fact that, oh, the same criteria is used for other countries. Why are they doing better than us? Let me remind you that until 2021, the key indicators of the report included pluralism. It included your legislative framework, of course. It also had a component about safety. And on that basis, if you had taken a country like Niger that has only 15 media houses to Ghana that has over 400 media houses, by our share numbers, we will beat about 6 at least or 7 of the countries that are listed ahead of us, that we are now in the 9th position. But I believe it is in good faith that they realize that let us not look at the cosmetics, let us not look at just the numbers, but let's dig into the issues that affect the performance of journalists in the country. And that is why the change in criteria has now added social indicators, safety, which was there before, legislative indicator, political indicator, and economic indicator. So if we want to have any conversation, and even before we start to speak, they say, oh, government spokespersons are also raising issues about economic indicators, and they shouldn't even go there, and we are barred from talking about it. Let me assure you something, that we may even add 1 or 2 figures to the other indicators, but if we should come back in 2024 and the welfare of journalists have not improved, and the economic indicators are still at 47 or even lower, we may not perform any better. That being said, I share in the concerns that have been raised about Section 76 of Electronic Communications Act, and of course, the combined effect of Section 207 and 208 of the Act 29. Personally, I have expressed this point on several platforms and even on panels that I believe my brother Sule and I have shared. And my position has been that I believe civil remedies should be sufficient for dealing with false publication by any journalist. I believe so. I strongly believe so. That being said,
the state or state agencies do not have capacity to sue for civil remedies. When there is a situation where a journalist is clearly reckless and their recklessness threatens the state or an agency, what then shall we do if we repeal these laws?
Samson, I am coming to that. I was talking about my confidence in civil remedies in that angle. I'm now coming to the provisions specifically under the Criminal Offences Act, Act 29. Samson, if you look at the category that provision comes under, it talks about the breach of the peace. As a lawyer, my impression is that those provisions were not put there necessarily to refrain journalists or to stop the work of journalists. It applies to even civilians who publish false news. And look at the mega trends that we are experiencing globally, and also in the case of Ghana. When we talk about publications these days, we are not even talking about only journalists. Now we have bloggers, vloggers, we have influencers, individuals whose clout and following and reach by their sheer capacity to distribute to masses beyond the borders of Ghana, whose reach are even bigger than maybe a half of the media houses in Ghana in terms of their market share. And these are facts. If you look at the share numbers of the performance of people who have millions of following on social media, and they publish something and all you see is over, even sometimes the views are in excesses of 10, 20 million, sometimes even more than the adult population we have in Ghana. That should also tell you that the prominence or the notoriety of some of these publications have reached levels that they are so injurious that people who are affected by them or complainants will be forced to choose the most biting measures to address some of these publications or infringements.
Okay.
Because something, take it from me, even from someone from my generation, I can confidently tell you that maybe 2 decades ago, we didn't have anything like something going viral. If it had to do with the traditional media alone and journalists who operate within that space, at least they have some editorial policy, they have something which has to do with verification and all that. Something, seriously, if you look at the regime today, that is not what's happening. People can merely just go to someone's tweet, pick the tweet and make a story out of it and retransmit, and it's all over the place. And for all you know, it will find its way.
It's refreshing to hear you say, Fatih, that personally you support the repeal of these laws that Justice Dennis Ejie referred to as the two sister ugly laws of libel. But
please, those are not my words. Let me remind you.
No, I didn't say those are your words. I didn't say those are your words. I refer to Justice Dennis Ejie. He is the one who describes them in the manner I just referred to. He describes them as the two ugly sisters of criminal libel. Now, you support that.
What I said was that I believe civil remedies are sufficient in dealing with journalists who publish false news.
So personally, you would want the two repealed.
Personally, I would want the two to be looked at. When I talk about being looked at or amended, what I'm talking about is that we are saying that it is not only journalists who are affected by these laws. If we are saying that there are instances that the only available solution is criminal action, how are we able to divorce the operations of journalists from the general laws that are supposed to affect, let's say, a pastor or imam?
So what will you say? What will you say that you have done? You have done in your office as the information ministry to engender some, or to sort of give advice for police or the security to avoid the abuse that they are engaged in, particularly using these two laws?
Samson, let me remind you of one thing before I submit to your question. The police have a mandate, and that is law enforcement. If there are laws sitting in our statute books, and people have confidence in it to walk to the police station to write complaints with respect to those laws, it will be unfair that when they implement those laws, the lawmakers like Honorable Okujeto, the executive like myself, and other stakeholders will now turn around and say, why did you implement those laws? I believe that will be a way that we are sharing responsibilities.
There are laws that have been passed in this country that are not in operation because the executive takes the view that they shouldn't be operational at this time, or for some reason we shouldn't even operate them. The question is, somebody makes a publication about the first family, somebody makes a publication about a businessman, someone makes a publication about the first lady and so on, and they get arrested by the police. Can the government, through the information ministry at least, be heard to say something about that?
Samson, it's a double-edged sword. And let me remind you that even in Sule's submission, he admitted that the Ministry of Information has responded in a recent incident. Let me tell you that when there is any such infringement, the minister and myself and other management team members at the Ministry of Information are also among the people who do not sleep until we are able to reach those individuals, have a conversation about whether they will need any assistance in terms of medical help, and whether they intend to prosecute, to open the necessary windows and give them the confidence that the government has no interest whatsoever in shielding any perpetrators, and they are at free will to choose an action if they so desire. That being said, the Ministry of Information has assisted the NMC to initiate the Office of the Coordinated Mechanism of the Safety of Journalists. I must quickly add that the operations are also limited due to some financial challenges that on several platforms I have also advocated that.
Has this been operational at all?
Yes, it has. It has.
What can you update us what it has done?
Oh, that was one of the mechanisms that was used in resolving the Kalekuda case, if you remember. And it is not, at least to the best of my knowledge, I believe about 3 incidences were referred to the office, and then they were able to verify and also interrogate and brought finality to those issues. But Samson, that being said, the reason why I said it's a double-edged sword is that when it comes to advocacy for the safety of journalists, we are not at odds, we are allies. We join all the other stakeholders in the public sensitization that when a journalist breaches their duty or when there is a display of unethical or unprofessional attitude, there are remedies like defamation under civil law if you so desire to pursue it. If you also want to file a complaint, you can also file a complaint to the National Media Commission if you are an institution and said that you are unable to pursue the remedy of defamation under civil law. We have encouraged this and publicly joined the other stakeholders in such advocacy. Okay. But I am saying that the issue about looking at Section 208 of the Criminal Offences Act and Section 76 of the Electronic Communications Act, it's not an event, it's a process. This government has a history as a tradition that indeed repealed the criminal libel law. In this administration that has received so much bashing, this administration introduced and passed and implemented the RTI. And this administration is capable of doing more. So what ought to be done is for our continuous collaboration in finding solutions and encouraging us, and sometimes also bringing a template. If we say that, okay, this administration must be amended or repealed,
right?
Something. What are we supposed to do?
All right,
we are supposed to find allies.
Thank you. Let me go to Sule. Let me take your final comments and whether or not the repeal of these 2 laws is the best. But some of you at the forefront of these processes have accused this government of being very, very terrible from the start when it came in and the manner in which it attacked the electronic media landscape, revoking licenses in the manner that the banking licenses were also revoked, and even subsequently seeking to reduce the radiuses of other radio stations. And the concern was that the motive politically was to create more licenses to give to party people who didn't have the opportunity of some of the licenses. Don't you think that there could be a disincentive in the repeal of these 2 legislations? Very briefly, and then I hear Okudete too briefly on that, and then we move on, please.
Well, Samson, I think it all boils down to government attitude. In places where those laws are not being applied, the question is what has been happening. As I did state from the beginning, under Mills, there was the Atoko Amunadazi incident and the Nana Adumaku Befi incident. As far as I can recall, those were the 2 cases involving media or media persons. So all along when these laws were not being applied, as a country, what happened to us? I believe, really, there was nothing significant that happened. I believe there will be laws that will be dealing with these issues about somebody deliberately endangering the lives of other people through sounding some false alarm here or there. But we have a situation where the government of the day decides that, look, at the least instance, in fact, including an instance where an editor was arrested for publication of false news at a time when the said publication had not been done, only because a person in the Council of State had reported to the police that, oh, there's a story that's going to be done about me, and the story is false. And the police acted, accosted the journalist, detained him at a time when the story had not even been published. And so when the RSF says that journalists, in order to protect their jobs and their security, have had to increasingly resort to self-censorship because the government has shown itself to be intolerant of criticism, that is what we are talking about. And other countries like Sierra Leone, over the last 3-4 years under Julius Maada Bio, there has been consistent improvement in Sierra Leone. And what has been done? The government has clearly shown its attitude towards promoting press freedom, including even allocation of resources to support the media landscape, supporting the Journalists Association, supporting the regulatory body, and all of that. If you take Guinea, even Guinea under military rule, what the military folks have done is that they've doubled the annual allocation to the media organizations, seized certain seized certain infrastructure or buildings that belong to former appointees that were acquired corruptly, and donated them to the media to be used as either libraries or press centers across many cities in the country.
All right.
This is military regime. So please, we are just talking about asking the government to be more tolerant and be more committed, and then stop the whole thing about words instead of deeds. Look, we've been talking about the National Comprehensive Framework on Safety of Journalists for years now. Nothing has happened. Sierra Leone, Liberia started their processes just a year ago. They've completed it, launched it, and it is working. But over here in Ghana, what has stopped us from having the National Comprehensive Framework on Safety of Journalists? It's not happening. We keep talking about it. So these are the realities for me.
All right. Thank you. Yes, what will be your final words, and whether you don't think that complete repeals could bring us to a situation where we may have some regrets. At a point, the government was preaching responsible journalism that suggested that, well, if journalists are being attacked and so on, it is because they are being irresponsible. So they should be responsible, and those attacks will cease.
I totally disagree with that assertion that journalists are being irresponsible and so should be attacked. No amount of irresponsibility should justify an attack. Nobody takes the law into their own hands under a regime of rule of law. The law must be allowed to work. People must respect other people's civil liberties. And let me state that I believe that in this country we have adequate laws to deal with any threat that we perceive. I must also submit that it's all about commitment, action, and not just talk and posturing. How many years have we been talking about passing a broadcasting law? I listened to the lamentations of
a broadcasting bill of 2010
of my good friend, the Deputy Minister for Information. All of these matters. It's clear that a fast-moving media landscape in a digital era has clearly outpaced all these ancient laws and even the lack of regulatory regime. Let us work assiduously to pass a broadcasting law that will deal with all of these things. Now people can be in any other jurisdiction and broadcast into your country, and you can't do anything about it because we simply don't have the legal regime. So let's work on passing the broadcasting law, and we can deal with all of these excesses that we complain about. The schism between the NMC and the NCA, they are working out cross purposes. I mean, shouldn't we be talking about rationalization, having some reforms?
The NCA is better resourced. The NCA has more powers to deal directly with, electronic media. The NMC doesn't have those powers.
Yes. So you reassess the two institutions, do an evaluation, and see how you achieve some nexus, some measure of a sort, and they work together. Finally, let me say that listening to the Deputy Minister carefully, we are being sent back to last year's issues they raised with the new economic indicator. I see that matter really worries the government. But you see, the government is not being very nuanced and looking at the other side. These economic indicators we complain about, that journalists are not being taken care of and all of that. We all know in this country that government is the biggest source of revenue for the media. Take media organizations or newspapers that are pro-government and see the adverts that they get. Everybody is advertising, all the state institutions. So is this same government and across regimes? So when NDC is in power, I want to be very objective about this. You will see that certain media organizations will do well, will get all the adverts and all of that. Then when it changes, can't we have a way where this is stopped? There's a certain equilibrium, a balance, where regardless of which party is in power, the adverts flow, so media houses are resourced, and then their management can take care of the journalists. Then this economic indicator headache will have been addressed. So there's also a role that government, a major role. I mean, they are only looking at media owners, media managers, starving journalists, but they are not looking at their own conduct. How? In this country, some CEOs can lose their job because they allowed an advert from their institution to go to an opposition media organization. So
when it's the taxpayers' money that was
it's the taxpayers' money. Anyway, so those are some of the things we need to do.
Thank you. Maybe I'll give Fatih just a minute to say something about, Sule, Samuel Kujeto, all agree about the need for government posturing pronouncements that can be healthy and impact, the system or the ecosystem. You don't believe that is important. People say some things like where you have an MP belonging to the government who threatens a journalist exposes a journalist and threatens a journalist is killed, and then he's giving a position in parliament, and then he continues to threaten journalists, says if I get the job, I'll whip him out, beat him up, and all of these things, and you don't say anything about it. You don't think that also affects adversely, the ecosystem?
Samson, first of all, let me say that one of the saddest things to me has to do with the fact that we lost a journalist, and we have not, brought finality to that issue because it's still an open investigation. And the police service or those who are in charge of investigation have not been able to bring the perpetrators to book. That is something I'm trusting that should happen. It's my desire that happens within the shortest possible time. That being said, it's also very dangerous to attribute certain issues under investigation to government posturing this. Government should have accused this person of this, sanctioned this person of that. When any matter is brought to the attention of the government, of course, we take action. But the issue is that there are instances where there are ongoing investigation. You don't want to come out and say something that may be completely off the investigation and even deteriorate the kind of inroads or efforts that the security agencies are doing. That is why you, as a lawyer, certain issues that are either being investigated or before the court, you may even advise a client to refrain from commenting until such a time that we are sure and confident of the information that we are putting out. So I can only use this opportunity to add to the various calls on the police service to do their best and expedite investigation into the murder of Ahmed Swale so that we can bring justice to the family, to the fraternity, and to the good people of Ghana.
Okay.
That being said, if you will spare me 30 seconds, I would like to respond to quickly to some two issues that were raised. One on the broadcasting bill and another on the Meet the Press that happened, that we used to organize at the Presidency or Jubilee House when I was the Deputy Director of Communication. First of all, Samson, remember we had COVID. Before COVID, this was an annual event we were organizing. I can assure you that we were even planning to organize one when COVID struck. It will be out of place to say that the kind of indoor meeting that involves everybody talking and a lot of conversations and dialogue to take place within that space. Trust me that now that the World Health Organization has said that COVID-19 is no longer a public health emergency, the strategy may now change from direct broadcast by the president in engaging Ghanaians and other strategies we have used for communication within the highest office may change. So please, we cannot have that conversation without taking out the circumstances that led to the abrupt stop in the strategy of bringing the media to the banquet hall at the Jubilee House and organizing such engagements. Lastly, the Ministry of Information and stakeholders are seriously working on the broadcasting bill. I believe Sule is in the known that there was a draft. We had taken the draft to consultants to look at it, even the Attorney General to look at it. We invited comments from 15 stakeholders. A few of them brought their comments and made their inputs. Right. It has been sent back to consultants. We have been working very hard, at least since 2021, to the best of my knowledge, to get it to a stage where we are able to harmonize the regulatory framework, especially between NCA and NMC, and also to cover some of the gray areas that cause the problems that we have within the information sector. So it is not as if nothing is being done. All the stakeholders know that some work is being done.
Thank you very much. Fatima Abubakar is the Honorable Deputy Minister for Information. Thank you. We will take a break, return to look at questions on the National Cathedral. And I still have Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa with me, Suleiman Abrahima, and we're joined by Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah, Executive Director of the National Cathedral Project. We'll be right back.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
My name is C. I'm a person living with HIV. I got to know of my HIV status when I became pregnant. Since then, I have successfully been delivered of an HIV-negative baby, thanks to PMTCT services. I follow the guidelines and take my HIV medicine called ARVs every day to date. This makes me strong, healthy, and prevents me from passing HIV onto my baby. Please avail yourself of PMTCT services when pregnant. It is the only way to ensure that you do not transmit HIV onto your baby during pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding. Even if you have tested for HIV recently and was negative, test again when pregnant. If you test positive, take the baby back to the hospital immediately after birth, as directed by your healthcare provider. The baby will also be given medicine immediately after birth and tested to ensure that both mother and baby are well. Let's work together to have a generation free of HIV.
Our children must be free to shine.
Pascal's showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
Hello and welcome to OMV and Sons Company Limited. We are the sole importers and distributors of Puncture Safe tie sealant. Puncture Safe is a product that you put in a car tie to prevent punctures from occurring. What it basically does is that you put them in your car tie through the valves so that anytime anything pierces the tie, instead of air coming out to deflate the ties, Puncture Safe will come out automatically to seal the ties without even you noticing. Now, this product is 95% organic and then it is water-based. Now, this is the green going for extra heavy-duty trucks. Wine, that is for heavy-duty trucks. We have the blue here for high speed, the motorbikes, the saloon cars, the SUVs. We are located at Kokomlemle, directly opposite Joy FM. You can contact us on 0595 756449. You can also contact us on 0302 246 550.
Joy 99.7 FM. Joy 99.7 FM.
Hey, welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. It's brought to you by Bank of Africa, MTN, Ashesi University, Robert and Sons Optical Services, My Way Insurance, Duraplus, DBS Industries, and Rehoboth Social Housing. So, as you have followed the news in the course of this week, starting with the May Day celebration, let's listen to the TUC's boss briefly.
The reason Ghana has had to seek IMF support almost every 3 years is largely due to the flaws in the way our economy has been managed based on the neoliberal free market ideology. We would like to reiterate our well-known position that the IMF program can never take us out of this crisis. Our history of engagements with the IMF provides ample evidence that and policies cannot change our economic circumstances. Another IMF program will only impose more economic burden on us. We have to change the situation ourselves as Ghanaians. We believe strongly that government can lead us out of this crisis. And the government can do so by cutting expenditure on non-essentials, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on a national cathedral.
Right, so that's a point that the Secretary General of the TUC repeated right before the president, whilst they were observing the May Day. And I was just asking myself how uncomfortable that should be for the president as he sits, and this man is repeating to the hearing of the president. He actually calls his attention again. Dr. Anthony Abba calls the president's attention again and says, stop spending our money on the National Cathedral, and suggests that, he said, he suggested that it should rather, be the money spent on it should rather be diverted into a national hospital. The project itself should be diverted into a national hospital. He said the president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so we can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, comrades, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital. How did you feel when you hear the leader of workers, labor, make such a statement in such an important, significant day, and he's saying it right before the president?
Well, first of all, thank you again for hosting us.
And I hope we can deal with this quite very briefly.
Quickly, yes.
Then we can move on to Okudjeto's artillery bombardments and your responses.
Right. First of all, projects of this nature always have this kind of criticisms, but I think it's important not to trivialize this because they raise concerns about what the country needs. We have real needs for recurrent expenditure on hospitals, education, and others, so it's important. But I think part of what is lost here, though, is that is exactly why we believe we need the National Cathedral. So I agree with him. We need all these issues, but the key issue facing Ghana and almost all African countries is how do you generate the wealth for the kind of recurrent expenditure? Because as you know, all African countries began as welfare states. We're providing everything, and then everything collapsed because we did not generate the wealth. Because hospitals, schools are recurrent expenditure, populations increase. The key challenge for us as a country, in fact for a continent, is that how do we generate the wealth that would then be used on a sustained basis to address some of this recurrent expenditure we are always going to have. We are always going to need new hospitals, new schools, because the population, our answer is that one-time investments like this, and we'll be going to it, with integrated elements that will allow us, beyond what the president says, a formal space for the nation, almost a symbol for the Christian presence here in this country and contributions, that we've also integrated the elements that will really turn Ghana into a religious hub. And the religious tourism has become such a major. If you look at the particular, one example is the United Arab Emirates. Until 20 years ago, it was not a site for religious tourism. The major site was Mecca. 2007,
but they're leveraging on what is natural to them, known to them. What is sort of their inheritance?
No, let me finish. 2007, they built the Grand Mosque at the cost of $545 million. At the moment, that is the second most visited religious site in the Middle East. 2007, before that, there was nothing there. Just 2020, there was $6.6 million visitors visiting there. Just in February, there was a new Abrahamic Center designed by Sir David Ajay that has been just inaugurated. I was talking to the director there, and what they are planning to do is literally to say, look, he says, we are going to use this to turn Abu Dhabi into the global convening space for religious, interreligious tolerance. Because these are the ways in which you develop the basis to generate the resources. So yes, I have no problem with ATC.
All right.
But the key issue for him, for me, for the opposition, for the ruling government, for you, is almost a generational question.
Okay, thank you.
How do we generate the resources?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Sule, we take it that Dr. Yauba was speaking for all workers because that's who he represents. Was he speaking for you as well? Mm-hmm. Hello, Sule. Yeah, quickly.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. He was. And I think when he talked about the government cutting expenditure on non-essentials and cites the National Cathedral, certainly he was right. Look, right from the idea moment, there were controversies about this particular project. The location of it generated a lot of controversy. The pulling down of structures belonging to public structure, private structures, generated its own controversy. The funding, we were initially told, well, government is not going to put money into it. It will be financed by the Christian community or other people. Eventually, we know that almost every money that has gone into it has come from public funding. The choice of an architect for the project, there were controversies about whether we couldn't have had, a pool of local consultants doing it. Then contracts, there are controversies about which contracts have been awarded to who, and Honorable Okujeto has revealed quite a lot about that. Then recently, I think it was Isud Anaba and another member of the board who talked about so much is being pumped into it in terms of money, and little progress is being seen, and therefore they called for audit. We've had resignations on the part of board members. We've had a demand for the audit, as I said. Now we are told there is this U.S. incorporation and all the matters that are coming up. And, when the CEO talks about Abu Dhabi and so on, I think what he fails to add is that they were not doing that at a time when people were struggling to get medical attention. I believe most of our politicians, when they are even sick, that's where they go. They go to the UAE. So, and they were not doing it at a time when, children across the country were not having desks to sit on. And children in our country continue to lie on their bellies to be able to write. I don't think that Abu Dhabi was doing that at that time. I don't think Abu Dhabi is doing this Abrahamic project that he's talking about at the time they are seeking an IMF bailout with imposition of several conditions of difficulties on the people. So we are talking about the realities of our situation.
Okay.
We know that people go to Dubai and other things for tourism and so on and so forth. They build their country. If we were at a stage where the state itself can finance this without all these basic problems that I'm talking about, I believe that even if people would have expressed concerns, the concerns would have been minimal.
All right. Okay.
And just finally, look, I believe if President Akufo-Addo from the onset had said, look, I think God has been gracious to Ghana. We have a situation where our mothers continue to die, children continue to die, and within my tenure, I want to build something that even if it will be known as the Akufo-Addo Memorial Hospital for Maternal Care, it is something that I believe even if people would have raised concerns, they would realize that, look, this is going to benefit all of us. And at a time when we are in crisis, at a time the economy is struggling, then we are talking about building a national cathedral because it will pull in people and so on.
Okay, but it must be noted that the cathedral idea and its commencement predates the twin problems of Russia, Ukraine, and COVID that we are now told are the only reasons why we are in this economic mess. Yeah, so briefly about that before we go to what you have brought from the US and their reactions.
I must certainly salute Comrade Yauba for those very bold, courageous, inspiring remarks at the Labor Day celebration, and he did it right in front of the president. That's the kind of speaking truth to authority that we have been waiting for many, many years. And I join millions of Ghanaians in saluting, commending, and celebrating the leader of organized labor for those very poignant and really forthright words.
He was actually applauded when he said that.
Yes. I mean, there was groundswell of support. And few minutes after that, everybody took a clip of what he said, and it went viral. I mean, I received it from all over Ghanaians abroad, I was surprised. Even people in the diplomatic community, everybody was circulating it. It just tells you how that message resonated with everybody. Look, I have here the contract that was presented to us in Parliament. $383.4 million without several exclusions is the cost of this project. We have done the analysis. If you add all these exclusions, the professional fees, the extension time claims, the finance charges of paid amounts, the standing time claims to main contract, abortive and rework costs, the museum displays and fit out. Many people don't know that the figures out there. You have here in the contract, the museum displays and the fit outs have been excluded. If you add all of that together with the cost of compensation, remember that some of the victims of the demolished properties are in court, demanding judgment debt. The Chief Justice wants to replace the Judicial Training Institute. There are several facilities that have not been replaced, like the Malian ambassador's residence that was demolished. The analysis we have done is that it will cost us, when all of this is said and done, about $1 billion. And put that figure in context. Take, for example, the Pongwater project, one of my favorite projects, which costs us $240 million. It provides 40 million gallons of water to 700,000 Ghanaians on a daily basis. So when we hear people like Yalban, they are looking at the opportunity costs, the comparative analysis, what could have been done. We celebrate UGMC, our first quaternary hospital. It was just $217 million. That's just about a quarter of what we are going to spend, potentially, if this project is to continue. Terminal 3 was just about $220 million. Look, there are very few projects in our entire history that have cost this much. So we are talking about the biggest investment. When I hear...
He also mentions the potential what we can get from that.
When I hear Dr. Polopoku Mensah, again, I say that the conceptualization is flawed. If we are looking at wealth generation, I would rather go for our history, see the impact the year of return is making. I was just speaking at Harvard a few weeks ago, and everybody was talking about the impact of the year of return. And it's one of the things I've commended the president for, that renewed spirit. There has been panafest and all of that, but let's face it, the year of return rebranding has been one of the positives of President Akufo-Addo. You have to give him that credit. True. I would rather have said, let's leverage on that. There's more potential there. Look, this is a country that has somebody who is believed to be the greatest African to have ever lived, Kwame Nkrumah. When people come here, a lot of this, recently there was a congressional delegation. I felt quite embarrassed taking them through what we have to show of Kwame Nkrumah.
But the memorial place has been...
No, it's not. It's
no, that's now a very beautiful place.
But you see, you link it to Nkrofo, his birthplace, where people want to see. Look at the state of our forts and castles. I took my family to the Elmina Castle not too long ago, and I was not impressed. There's so much we can do. These are UNESCO heritage sites. I would rather have said, look, you can take 10% of that $1 billion and restore and invest in these forts and castles, the icons we have, like Kwame Nkrumah, leveraging on the year of return. And I bet you we will make far more money than some of the financial projections, which really, I look at those numbers and I think that it's flawed, it's so ambitious. Look, they are now even researching on whether people really will be interested and the place of Africa in the Bible and all of that. When you have Israel to compete with, are we sure that people, are going to leave Jerusalem and come to Accra if they want to embark on a Christian pilgrimage? All those countries you mentioned, UAE, there are footprints of the Prophet Muhammad in all of those jurisdictions.
That's why I was trying to listen to him.
So there's something they are leveraging on, and I think that we have better to leverage on.
Okay, thank you. So now let's start with you. You are the man who's been to the US, and did you leave or you came to meet the victory? The contempt proceedings against you.
Oh, yes.
That you have won.
No, I came to meet it. I came to meet it. And let me thank all of you, the good people of Ghana. There was tremendous support. Many people thought that.
But it's important. You are the best of legal hands in court. You don't. I've read the legal submissions of your lawyer, and it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so you have some 10,000 cedis.
We'll donate to charity.
Oh, charity.
Yes.
This desk is. All right. Now, so tell us, you come back and you start this serialization. Now people are saying you should be giving the Journalist of the Year because you are more a journalist. And they have issues. For example, Doc mentions the fact that if you want there to be questions, and some probing, it should happen in a proper place in the House of Parliament, not the manner in which you are doing it, talking about illegal activities of the Secretariat. You are talking about some fraudulent office addresses in the US and so on. What exactly is the problem?
So let me quickly address those concerns about my modus operandi and my methodology. First of all, as a member of Parliament, your constitutional mandate really is to carry out oversight. Many people forget that, and when they say, oh, he's acting like a journalist, I get the impression that they haven't really averted their mind. Because, you see, the whole principle of checks and balances, this Montesquieu doctrine, is to allow for members of Parliament, one arm, to be checking the other, so that, as Lord Acton said, absolute power will corrupt and will corrupt absolutely. So there always has to be countervailing forces, and that is why we have members of Parliament. So I'm simply carrying out my mandate, and it is not trying to. The last time I heard one of the deputy ministers of information say that I appear to want to become a movie star and I'm on a popularity contest and all of that. Not at all. You're only doing your work, and you see, you must recognize that we are in a new age. Previously, you have members of Parliament who would then probably write out a feature article in, say, the Daily Graphic, or will give it to multimedia. This time, you have social media. You can control the narrative. You can put out the evidence for everybody to see. It is also not accurate to suggest that I only have been active out of the chamber or on social media. Most of these issues I raise on social media, often I raise them in Parliament first. Check the parliamentary records. Throughout the debates, even on approval of budgets and all of that, I have raised these matters on the floor. So as we speak, there is a pending motion that I have sponsored, admitted by the Speaker, calling for a probe. We were just out of time, and so we couldn't have the debate, because after the Speaker admits, the second stage is to have the debate, then the third stage is to have the committee set up. So we are waiting for those two stages. And it's in my name. So for people, a parliamentary inquiry into these national cathedral scandals.
But I needed this small thing about, if you are doing parliamentary oversight as your job, who is funding that? We see you presidential appointment to the president's office. You have been on that. How the president has been flying, the jets. All of these things that you follow. Who is paying for it? Is it being paid for by Parliament if it's parliamentary oversight?
I really think that you have to be passionate about your job. Already we are paid by the taxpayer through Parliament. And so I take it that, look, sacrifice a little bit, use your salaries, because you are being paid. You are paid to work. So I just use my salaries, get a plane ticket, and take care of. So I don't have funding from any external, but let me clarify that. Sometimes people even want to throw in conspiracy theories that probably has he gone to align with some anti-Christian group, and are they then sponsoring him and all of that? No, not at all.
Okay.
I wouldn't even entertain that at all. I still maintain that, look, Christianity is a force for good in the world. That's only
in the revelations that you have been making since your return from the US over this matter. Point us to 3 of what is most significant for you.
Okay, so let me reveal that I'll be doing 7 episodes. I'm only at 3. So probably get into middle of these episodes. What I put out so far, the 3 significant ones are: 1, the articles of incorporation. We had not known, it's never been disclosed to us, that apparently we have some private actors. And the way the incorporation was done, it did not...
Incorporation of a foundation.
Yes, the Ghana the National Cathedral of Ghana and Bible Museum Foundation
in the U.S.
Incorporated in the U.S. So we have Dr. Vernon Darko. The first time I was seeing that name associated with the National Cathedral. Then we have Eric Ochre Darko. Then we have Dr. Paul Opoku Mensah. Now, interestingly, that whole arrangement is at variance to the advice of the Attorney General. If you read the January 6, 2022 advice of the Attorney General, that arrangement, which is a private arrangement, where they are collecting funds, when you read the purpose of the incorporation, is to go around and raise funds for a national project. And I was shocked that I didn't see the ambassador. We have 2 diplomats, head of missions, the ambassador based in Washington, D.C., and the permanent rep based in New York. None of the addresses used. So that to me was really startling. Then the second major issue are the really fictitious addresses. Let me just be frank. So on the National Cathedral of Ghana website, they always have advertised, and viewers can go check it out, that they have an office in the United States of America. The address is 1090 Vermont Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., zip code 20005. So I go to that address. I have here in my hands the complimentary card of the property manager. The property managers are Capitol Concierge. I asked them, is National Cathedral of Ghana here? They said no. Are any of their agents here? If I want to deliver a letter or just deliver some communication, they tell me that no. They took me through the entire, there's a 12-floor apartment, the entire list. And they say that, look, they are not here. I said, what's going on here? I showed them the address, and they said, you see, when you look at the address carefully on the website, it doesn't give you a suite number or an office number. It's just the building. So they told me that clearly you can see that, the people are not being, transparent with you guys. So go back home and find out really what's going on. I left there and decided to check on the consultant to the USA. Now, on the website of the National Cathedral, a gentleman named Carrie Summers. I found out now when I obtained his full profile from official sources that he's Carrie Lee Summers. And why it is important that I pursued Carrie Lee Summers is that if you go to the breakdown of the 339 million spent so far, which has produced the world's most expensive hole, a place that looks like a Galamsey site, nothing to show, for $58.1 million of expenditure. You look at the breakdown, and Carrie Lee Summers' group, the Nehemiah Group, and BMOA have received 28.2 million Ghana cedis. It's here. They gave us this document, Dr. Poku
as what?
Here, as consultancy services. That's what Parliament was told. So this colossal amount of money going to somebody in the United States of America, a member of Parliament, you don't just, accept it hook, line, and sinker. You want to do some due diligence. So I decided to pursue the address which we were given in Parliament, which is on the website of the National Cathedral, 3119 A Cynic South, Springfield, Missouri, zip code 65807. I arrive at the location, and to my shock, I don't see any Nehemiah Group. What I saw was quite a ramshackle, I must be honest, quite a rundown warehouse with the signage, the Churchill Coffee Company. That's all I saw. Churchill Coffee Company, wholesale division. There was no Nehemiah Group. Meanwhile, when you go on the National Cathedral website, there is a link with all kinds of images, glossy pictures and all of that about the Nehemiah Group. I don't see that. So this clearly raises due diligence concerns. Remember that in this country, we were once given an address for a major loan, CNTCI loan. That took us to a hairdressing salon. So we have become very wary in Parliament. You don't just accept addresses like that.
But you said you met the gentleman.
Yes. Whilst
that address.
Yes, we met him. So clearly, nobody can say that I went to the wrong address, because since I returned, even yesterday on the show, Nana Komia was asking me if I'm sure I went to the right address, and I think that it's good fortune that Carrie Summers showed up. Let me give you the third concern, so that doctor can come in. Now, the third concern is what I put out this morning. I have also obtained, and this was unknown to us, registration documents of federal operations in 2 additional states in the United States of America, Illinois and Oklahoma. They've never told us that. It's not on their website. And what is shocking is that all the claims that had been made earlier when their responses to my exposés, you remember Dr. Poku-Mensah said that, the Washington incorporation preceded the Attorney General's advice. I will agree. The Attorney General's advice came January 6, 2022. They incorporated in May of 2021 in Washington, D.C. However, after the Attorney General's advice, on the 2nd of September, they defied the Attorney General's advice and went to register in Illinois and did the same thing. This time, making Dr. Vernon Darko the president, Eric Ochidako secretary, and Dr. Poku-Mensah director. Then the Oklahoma incorporation, a copy of which I have here. By the way, you are a lawyer, I know you are particular about these things. I have certificates from the state secretaries certifying that all the documents I have obtained are true certified copies from the Secretary of Washington, D.C., the Oklahoma Secretary of State, and then the Secretary of State for Illinois. So that none of the documents I'm presenting are my own creations. You see the Oklahoma document, which was also filed on the 12th of December 2022. So several months after the Attorney General had advised that, look, this is a national project now. Things must be national. And I expected that from that period, you bring in the Board of Trustees in Ghana. They should be represented. After all, they all have churches in the United States of America. You make sure the ambassador in the U.S. is represented. All of these addresses that you are striking in Oklahoma, they use the address of the warehouse as the address for the National Cathedral conflicting. So it's just a mess. And one wonders why the Attorney General's advice was so violated. After January 6, 2022, in September of that year, you go to Illinois, do something at variance with that advice. Then in December of 2022, you go to Oklahoma and do something different. Let me also indicate that thanks to Oklahoma law, the Oklahoma Solicitation of Charitable Contributions Act, they were compelled to reveal how much they raised the previous year, which is $63,978. Something they have never told us. It's never accounted for us in Parliament. So all of these fundraisings going on by these private individuals, receiving all of these monies, we know that this is for just Oklahoma in 2021. What has happened in Illinois? Okay. How much has been raised in Washington, D.C. and all the other states?
Yeah. Don't worry. He's speaking, okay. And 10 minutes now. You have equal time to talk.
That's why he started 33.
You have equal time to talk.
He can come in.
Almost 20 to 80 minutes.
You come in.
He said he started
33.
33. Looking at which clock? No, I'm not looking at that. Go ahead. But he was not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But let me start with a concern. I think the last time I was here, we talked about the fact that, and I've repeated this, that issues of accountability are so critical, not just for the National Cathedral Project, even for myself. I remember Okujato and I had a conversation, a telephone conversation, and I told him that, look, if it is accountability you are after, that's what I also want. And actually told him that beyond the National Cathedral, my whole professional life has been on political accountability. In fact, even going to the extent of sending him an article on civil society, democratization.
Very brilliant.
2003, that I had written with a colleague, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of Gov't, who's now heading the University of London, SOAS, told him, like, look, the first global survey of the civil society and globalization, democratization, I wrote the African chapter. I was commissioned not because I was just an academic, because I was part of the Pan-African discussions on civil society, political accountability in Africa. I told him in 2007 I was in Ghana. At the time I was research director for Center for Comparative Regional Integration Studies at the University of Aalborg in Denmark. I was in Ghana to help develop the concept for the West African Center for the African Peer Review Mechanism. I was not saying this to tell him that, look, these are my credentials. All I was trying to tell him was that issues of political accountability is really something I care deeply about.
Okay.
I made only one request in that conversation, only one, that in his quest for accountability, I could be an ally because I want the National Cathedral to be addressed, to be really implemented with accountability. The only thing I ask is that before he rushes to accuse, he should verify information. That was the only request I made of him. I'm not saying don't go out accusing, but that's critical to accountability is verification. That some of the issues that you rush to almost frame as scandals are really not scandals if you actually ask for clarification.
Okay, so
let's
begin.
Introduction. So let me go. The first one he talks about is the whole incorporation. One, part of my role is fundraising for the National Cathedral. And we have a fundraising strategy that has been approved by the board. That also includes fundraising outside the country. When you go to a country to do fundraising, you realize that you are not allowed to come to do fundraising until you are incorporated, registered. And so the registered foundation is not an office, a branch office of the National Cathedral of Ghana. It's a special purpose vehicle for fundraising. It has nothing, it has everything to do with my role as the fundraiser. And knowing that in the US context, the only way you can actually go and do fundraising is to register. Two, the board had approved this consultant you're talking about,
Karisamis,
as a consultant. In fact, I first met him in 2018 during, in fact, just about 2 months after I had taken this job. I knew of the Bible Museum because I was on the board of one of the organizations, SSI International, that was working on the museum. So I wanted, as part of this, look, we should integrate something that allows us integration of the Bible Museum. So we went to the museum, February, but I remember it was 12 February 2018. Actually, the first one, I went with the ambassador, Baua. When we went there, I mean, the scope of the museum, almost over 600 million museum, what attracted me to the museum was not just the, I mean, technologically immersive, the fourth largest, but the most visited museum. But that's not what attracted me. What I saw was the integration of business elements. A Bible museum with one of the theaters, banquet halls, conference rooms that are being used constantly. So I remember asking him, look, yeah, the museum is nice, but tell me a bit about your business development, because that is what I think this country needs. So the National Cathedral we're doing, we want to make sure that we have this business element. And he says, look, we are happy to share these things with you. So I decided, look, send some of the trustees there. I sent Revenue Tabel there in April 2018. I mean, when he saw it, he came back and says, look, we have to change this concept to make it the National Cathedral of Ghana and the Bible Museum of Africa. Because he says, look, this link could completely transform this project and the fortunes of this country.
This was Dr. Otabel's recommendation.
Right. In fact, when he came to the board meeting, the minister there. I later brought Archbishop Duncan Williams. In fact, he even wanted to, so he also went there. We went to his house. He met Karisamis. They were all fascinated because part of his role beyond the Bible Museum is that he is responsible for almost all the major religious theme parks, not only in the US. The Nazareth village, those who've gone to Israel, he built it, ran it. So what really has been central to his role is this integration of business elements. So he was the one, so I came and told the board that we need a consultant like this. So he came here, he made a presentation to them. They said, look, this is the person we need. When he came, he was responsible for the integration of this 350-seater restaurant, banquet hall, and so literally he changed, the whole design was changed. And then he says, look, we want you to
So you are justifying How much payment of
28.2 million?
No.
8 million.
I mean, you see, once again, if he had asked the Secretariat, I mean, you see, normally when you do this, it's almost like an audited report. They ask
so
you to
the question he asked is, this what you have put in the document that you are spending on him.
Yeah. Right.
And you give his address. He goes to his address.
I think let me.
And he sees a warehouse.
I think let me. So the incorporation one, it is not a branch office of the National Cathedral of Ghana. It is a special purpose vehicle for fundraising. Two, he talked about the incorporation.
Which must be accountable. Because you are raising funds for the people of Ghana.
Two, he talks about the incorporation itself. And he didn't raise it here. And the fact that we use kind of identity theft. This was what has been running.
Yes.
Once again, back to what I started off. If he had just called to say, this is what I have found, could you explain before I go out? First of all, one, and let me stress this, you do not, and let me repeat, you do not need a social security number to get a tax ID for a foundation. It's an incorporation certificate that is used. So he says we're using somebody, a dead man's identity
social
to
security
get,
number, yes.
You do not, once again, let me repeat, here directly.
No, but you are contradicting your own statement.
You have acknowledged that you have very limited time. Please don't interject. Don't interject. Don't interject.
May 2nd statement.
He has less than how many minutes to finish?
So first, you do not need that.
You need it for an EIN.
No, you don't.
Don't reply him. Speak directly.
So, fictitious idea. Look, we are using one of the main, in fact, the leading law firms in the U.S. on non-profit practice. You can call him Beirute. He advised that normally, in fact, the idea was that do you set up an office? And so, look, we are here to raise money. Why do you set up an office and be paying rent? And so his office was our legal, and he says normally what we do in the US, because when you register anywhere, they require you to have an agent. And so normally what is done is that you have a holding address, and most of the letters get sent to the
holding address
and then sent to the lawyer. So that is really almost an agreement between the lawyer and whoever is receiving the information. The key issue is that you do not.
That's nobody.
So that's the one.
Yeah.
And then the third one has to do with the Karisama so-called warehouse. First of all, I think it's really, you get almost worried about this attitude. Some of these people are rich because they are frugal. He has that warehouse. You can check again, Churchill Coffee, one of the largest coffee distribution. He has his office in there. Because most times the way these consultants work is that they have associates all over the world in the US. So you don't create an office. In fact, even when he was the president of the Bible Museum, he had his office in Washington, D.C., but he also had his consultancy offices in the same place. If you had gone inside the room, you'd have seen his offices, well laid out. But I think part of my worry, though, is this whole really, once again, this rush to create scandals where there is none.
Really?
I mean, this idea that we've registered and incorporated in other states, no. When you register, it's
contrary to the Attorney General's
Attorney General
advice.
never taught anything about fundraising.
Okay.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying, that what we have done there is an administrative response.
You are right. You are right about the time. Time is up.
So let me finish though. That the registration in the other states, it's almost like the bar. When you register in one state to raise money, you are not allowed to go to another state to register money. You have to incorporate. So in fact, we're actually incorporating in 33 states.
Okay.
But that is all administrative. It has nothing to do with policy. The policy already has been established that part of your role is international fundraising. And once again...
Which you said was interim, and that after the Attorney General's advice...
Okay.
Your own statement.
Yeah.
Your May
too bad, time is up.
But really, what I'm trying to say is that the critical issue The critical issue is that for a parliamentarian to keep rushing to